Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. Yeah. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah. Escape to the metaverse. Better act like you know. You are now tuned into the Matthew and Rizzo show. Yeah.
Hola.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah. How's it going?
Did you get your keyboard to start working again?
Yes.
That's so annoying.
So
like when your
silly.
keyboard has drivers to update, it's like, oh my god.
Well, it just doesn't make sense that it's a Logitech update, and it's a Corsair keyboard.
And that makes even less sense to me.
It's so stupid, eh?
100%. I think that was the first like Canadian-ness that emanated out from you. That was the first A I've ever heard you say.
Oh, really? I've said it quite a bit. I think.
See, we'll probably want to cut this because we sort of just doxed you. I think last week we were talking about where people were coming from for Rizzlefest. And then Rizzle was like very smartly, was like, I'm not going to say where this dude Dragonate's from.
Well, okay, Canada, for people to know I'm from Canada, that's completely fine.
Okay.
Originally from the
Rizzle,
Boston Crypto Voxels, now living in Canada.
Yes.
Canadian ID 69 420 69.
ABC. Perfection.
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
So what's up, dude? What's good?
Nothing much, man. Just getting through the week. Fly back to the States next week, so getting in all the last minute like eating that I can before I fly out and making sure that the fam's all set. Yeah, other than that, Matt Cain's gazers are like in a blue moon celebration. It's like super specific. But for folks who don't know, of like a collector of Matt Cain gazers, and it's just like the most magical living art collection ever created, full stop. There's a million different celebrations, digital celebrations that he's baked into this collection right now. Like one of the celebrations is called a blue moon celebration, and after like 33 lunations, like cycles of the moon, your gazer will celebrate based on like when it started. There's like 372 of the 999 gazers or whatever, or 1,000 gazers that are origin moons, which means like when we collected it back in, what was it, like December 3rd or 4th of 2021, 30 after that moon cycle ended, plus 33 more coincided with like 2 days ago for those owners. So their moons are now in like this like crazy zoomed in celebration mode, and it's just insane to watch and document and like geek out with all the other gazer collectors in the gazer Discord. So anyway, that's just been like top of mind, something more positive than the market madness, like global macro World War III conditions that the world is finding itself in.
No, I need these like periodic reminders from you to remind myself that I missed out on gazers like back in the day, and that they're still doing awesome things. And I see your posts periodically about them, and I'm like, God damn it! Shout out Matt Cain. One of my very few. I don't have a lot of regrets, man, but that is one of the ones I missed. I regret getting in on, and I haven't done any shopping in a long time. I have no idea what the floor is, but it was cost prohibitive for it was in my price range for like the blip of an eye, and I missed out thinking it would never be. And here we are, me just getting the recaps from you. But dude, this is sort of like in the vein of what we were talking about last week too, man, as far as like, market madness, all the shit's going crazy. NFTs are dead again. There's like 20 of us back here, like who still care about them. But this is the stuff that people care about, like who care about NFTs. And we were talking about like, base colors being like a good way to like onboard people to NFTs in a way that actually like introduces them to what NFTs actually are, instead of it being just sort of like some pipe dream about numbers going up in digital ownership. And I'm like, Matt Cain is just and Gazers are just like a great example of like NFTs doing cool things that people who appreciate NFTs appreciate about it, and explaining that to someone on the periphery who like only has the baseline understanding of what the public sees NFTs are is a bunch of hurdles to jump through, man. But this is the good stuff, man, and I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like this is the kind of stuff that collectively the people who appreciate and understand the talk need to understand the technology need to continue to talk about and push to the forefront and everything. So so it's good stuff, man. What was I gonna say? We got a cool whip on this week in the spirit of experimentation and everything. You know about it more than I do in terms of what Cameron's coming on to talk about, but I can speak to what Hidden Forces is coming on to talk about a little bit as well, unless you got other stuff you want to get into first.
No, we can talk about that. The only other thing popping up that I wanted to let you know, following in your footsteps, jumping on that NFT Catcher podcast with Jennifer and Keen, who also seems like a Philly dude. I listened to your episodes, so I guess he's from Philly. Yeah.
So no, they're great, man. It's a good time. It's always like you probably listen to I'm gonna go on assumption because I listen to like basically zero other podcasts and stuff like that. I don't even listen to our own after we record them and everything. It's just sort of on to the next. So but I occasionally get the opportunity to go speak on other people's podcasts and things like that. Which is always like fun and interesting to just sort of see how other people do it and like get their flavor, because I don't have a lot of like outside influence in terms of how we do this. I don't know if that's obvious to anyone or not. I just pretty much show up and talk. And so they got like a format to theirs, and they have some like segments and everything, and which I enjoy. It's like, some curveballs, not in a bad way, but just like stuff that I don't always get the opportunity to talk about. And I don't know, it's fun being on the other side of things. So shout out Jenny from the block for having me on and pulling you on as well.
Yeah, I was listening. I'm glad I listened to your segment. Like
Jenny
just
from the
like
blockchain. I was Jenny from the blockchain. Correct me.
Jennifer Lopez. Like Loki.
Yeah. Jenny from the blockchain is arguably cooler than Jennifer Lopez, at least based on my interactions with her.
I'd say so. Yeah, but like listening through, they threw some curveballs. They were talking about a bunch of non-crypto stuff, which I thought was cool to kind of get to know the guest a little bit more. Excited to chat with them. I also like the Philly connection. For whatever reason, we just keep coming in, like bumping shoulders and running into other folks from Philly, which is pretty cool. So I'll always have time for folks from that neck of the woods, which like weird segue to the whip this week. Cameron, the former co-founder from Cent, has a new project, Rebase.finance. He's going to be jumping on talking about that, giving a big airdrop to everyone that signs the guest book that they'll be able to immediately use on the project that Cam will be talking about. It's a staking protocol that is launching a sort of like crypto-powered like way to hire folks for like new token-based projects and communities and stuff like that. Totally crypto native, minimizing as many dependencies as possible, super on-chain, and simple, sort of like what we've come to like expect from Cam going back to Cent days, trying to keep things simple as possible, and accessible, but in a way that like lets people kind of let their imaginations run wild with like what's potentially possible with basic staking, letting other coins kind of like incentivize different token communities to stake to their token to gain a larger like community base, and then being able to leverage their own token to give equity grants to folks to provide services from like non-technical, like community, social work to like technical dev working. So it's going to be cool. Excited to see how our crowd receives it. I know Brookhawk has been paying attention to it, so see if we can get other folks in the Rebase ecosystem. But yeah, that's my half the whip. And I think like me and Paradox and a few other folks on the the whip crew are like, what's going on with Hidden Forces? What can we expect from his end?
Well, I first want to scratch at Rebase, man, because I've been following along too, man, and this is like and I've always liked Cameron, man, because I just know he's like a tinkerer. He like can't even hide it that well. But as a tinkerer myself, I love that about him. And dude, I get like it's unrelated, but I get like Steve Klebnov vibes from him and the type of stuff he's involved in, or at least, and I don't know what Steve is like directly involved in right at the moment, but back in the day, and maybe still now, but he was always just sort of experimenting with different things and different ideas, and it's like nobody's people have done this, but nobody's really done this kind of thing, and that's what I like about like what Cameron's doing here with Rebase. I'm like, this is something different. It's like a different spin on things. And there's some complexities to it that even though I've been following along, I'm like, all right, this is like interesting. It has enough nuances that I want to learn more about like his approach to it and how he sees this panning out and everything, because like you said, man, it's not like a rocket science concept, but it does sort of like scratch at uncharted territory a little bit, in the sense of it's an experiment that sounds good, could work out great, but once again, we all know like how this works with experimentation out here. It's part of the way to move things forward, whether it pans out or not, but you got to have it. And so I just love that, man. And I'm excited for him to come on the WIP and pick his brain a little bit. This is going to be one of those where, like, if no one else has questions to load up show with, I'm going to load him up with some questions, because this kind of stuff is just inherently interesting to me. So I won't spill any more about what I know, because I have been following, but I'll let Cameron speak tomorrow at the WIP and give everyone the details and everything. But it's cool, man. I feel like our audience, a lot of our audience is from old Cent days, and is familiar with that and has that same type of like tinkerer mentality. So I think they're going to enjoy the presentation. And Hidden Forces, man. Hidden Forces is like one of our closest metaverse WIP relatives from like the early days, who's like been a huge supporter forever. And dude, I don't know if I don't know, man. It seems like we've got this like altruistic trend going like amongst the WIP community, where I've been saying it for a long time, where if people have stuff they want to give out, we'll give out their stuff. And it's been happening for a while, but man, this summer in particular seems like we've just given out like a ton of shit. Like, people keep hopping on Brookhawk, Ballistic Banana, Frankie Needles. I just sent out a bunch of stuff from last week. I got to make a post about it when we're done with the podcast here. And so Hidden Forces is, I was like, dude, how do you, it's okay. So let me back up a little bit. Hidden Forces has had this, I believe there's 99 of them, these PFP, I think he's calling them PFP projects, but it's not. It's like it's an art project that people could use as a PFP, and there's a lot of thought, and he put a lot of thought and time into these things. And similar to Cameron's Rebase project, I don't want to spoil the presentation because I do know some of the background, but to make a long story short, man, these have been out there for a while. Hidden Forces put them out on the market. Sold a couple of them, but they've been out there, and he's like, I don't want my art sitting on the market. I want it in the hands of people who appreciate it, and know me, and I know them, and that kind of thing. And so he just hit me up, and he's like, dude, I just want to do a cool thing, man, and I appreciate the WIP and everything. I want to give out art to everyone in the audience. And I was like, oh shit, dude, that's awesome. So I was like, and then I was talking to you yesterday. I was like, well, let's figure out a way to like gamify this, right? Like, if you're going to be so generous as to give out stuff to everybody, let's find out, we can make a game out of it, or like we can make people do a thing for it. And he was just like, dude, I just want to pull a Fabiano and Patrizia and just give it out to everyone who is showing up and coming out to the thing. And so so I was, what am I going to say to that? Like, no, man, we need to make people jump through all these goofy hoops in order to get your art. Dude wants to like show up and give away a whole bunch of awesome art to our audience and everything. And so then I was like, dude, like, you got to tell people about the process, man, and what went into it. Because because I know a lot went into it. And so, just giving people this NFT and being like, Hidden Forces says I love you or something doesn't do it as much justice as hopping on the WIP, explaining the thought and the intention and the process behind it. And then, we'll give everyone the art for turning out and hearing about it. So, you gotta jump through one hoop, which is at least like showing up and listening to Hidden Forces talking about how he made his art. But it's going to be minimal, and we'll deck out the Hyperfi parcel and do some sort of like a walking tour. Because it's there's like a somewhat of an in-depth process and thought behind everything that's gone into it. So it's a cool one, man. This will be another WIP where we get to make it rain on the audience, and on top of the Fabiana and Patrizia gift, sounds like Rebase is showing up and going to do an airdrop on everybody. So it's a rainy WIP tomorrow, but who doesn't love that?
Yeah. Chances of airdrops 100%. Like,
for real, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I love Hidden Forces. Like you said, he's like the closest to like the WIP crew that we have. That's not like official WIP crew. He's pretty much grandfathered in at this point. There should be some sort of role for him. Like we'll figure it out, but excited to get a closer look at his art. I know over the years, like meeting up in Mexico City or like New York during NFT NYC, he always comes with goodies and art, and he's gifted them to me, and I have it in my stash, like along with, for example, like the physicals that Giselle X had given out back in the day. And I know there's like a strong kinship between Giselle X and Hidden Forces, so keeping those physical works of art close is important to me, and also just keeps the spirit of this whole like little community we have been part of alive.
Yeah, man, he's become, over the years, man, he's become like one of these people where I end up at an event where he's at. Last one was in Lisbon, a couple months ago or whatever, and he's one of these people that makes it feel like a family reunion. I've ran into him enough times. And we're like friends and informal, enough with each other that, you just sort of pick up where we left off, and the vibe translates into, metaverse stuff too. Like Hidden Forces just rolled in, and he's just it's sort of like Skeeny in a way. He's just like, "What's up, fuckers?" And it's just like, "Hey, what's Hidden Forces is here." Long time no see. But dude is full of great stories, man, as I'm sure you know. Him and Skeeny and I, and he was part of that clique with George Boya and Barbie, just fucking laughing like through half of the trip, goofy shit. So excited to have him on, man. It's sort of like an in-house WIP in a way where the speakers are very close fam of the fam type of thing, but that's all right, man. I mean, a lot of these people are some of the true innovators and brilliant minds in the space who have never really wavered or left. So, let's bring them on.
Exactly. And it's going to be a nice kind of like chill prelude to what's happening next week. Little alpha, if you haven't updated Nifty Island clients, do that. You have a crazy WIP next week with Brian Brinkman, Young and Sick coming through. Whole bunch of stuff, giveaways too, and like again, like my favorite part of what's happening next week, we're gonna be shooting one another with like bong blasters. That's the like the one teaser from the Young and Sick side that I'm gonna throw out there. Bong blasters, like whatever you see in your mind's eye, it's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be ridiculous. So get ready for that. And next Thursday's WIP as well.
Dude, zoom out for me, man. Like, what's your take on like the NFT scene in general right now? You talked at the very beginning. Obviously, the market's going wild right now, but at least for my end, man, it doesn't really seem to affect the NFT scene too much because people had sort of written us off like a while ago, like and we never really like totally recovered from that yet. So again, on my end, man, it sort of feels like old days in a lot of ways, where like, you know, sort of the weak hands have been shaken out, and like really the people who only really believe in NFTs are still, you know, hanging around and you know, pushing the space forward. But I also might have blinders on, man, because I spent a lot of time like distancing myself and muting a lot of the stuff in the scene, you know, a couple of years ago that I wasn't interested in and felt like wasn't good for it. And so I only catch glimpses of it, man. And then I saw like randomly like Scottie Pippen's out here trying to like, you know, sell a bunch of NFTs. And I'm like, okay, wait, this has like 2021 vibes. Where like, you know, the randos start coming with their random stuff and everything, but it's in a lot of ways, like I was saying, it's still sort of the pool of enthusiasts seems about as small as it's ever been right now. But give me a wider vision, man. Like, what's your take on it?
Yeah, first of all, like Scottie Pippen showing up, it's so fucking random, just so incredibly random, and people are like, don't do this. Continues to like, as someone uses his account to post all the shit that he's whatever shilling. I didn't even look into it. Just absolutely absurd. Very weird. Just timing just makes zero sense. But outside of that, again, you always have to look and make sure you separate the different parts of the NFT landscape. The art side, it's kind of an interesting time, right? If you follow Roger Dickerman, 24 Hours of Art, like you see the sales, right? Like there might not be crazy volume, but for some of the like more, like I don't want to say blue chip or anything like this, but the more highly esteemed or more sought after collections or works or artists, they continue to fetch like strong 6-figure sales. Joe Peace the other week had one of his most iconic works go on secondary for like 100,000 something, which is not the biggest sale we've ever seen, but strong sale in this market to Cosmo. Newer collectors have been coming in and having like strong purchases, like Blondie, is part of the White Wall app, which is like the latest in like screen to like digital frame technology that's been popular with the folks that have like Apple TVs, essentially. And it's a great streamlined service, but easy to throw up art on there, making big push there. So the art side seems to be okay at the high end. The low end, where people are just fighting over like free mints and are just, I don't know, it's tough for a lot of artists out there. You see like Foundations pivoted to Rodeo, which is, I guess it reminds me of 01, what 01 has been doing, just on a different layer.
I didn't unpack that, man. I didn't realize Foundation had pivoted. They've been off my radar for a little bit.
Yeah, so it's not like a strong pivot, it's like a weak pivot. So they still have their marketplace going, but they spun up a new app called Rodeo. And I'm still waiting for my invite, so I can't say from firsthand user experience. But it feels just like a 01 play. People are putting work up and people can mint it for like free or like very low fee, essentially. So like same sort of activity that we saw over on Warpcast for a minute with those like low fee free mints, whatever you want to call them. Seems like a play in that direction. See it pop up from time to time in the timeline. Not sure how strong that is, but again, it's like such a bifurcated market where you have almost free art, and then you have extremely like the sought after, like that small group of artists that are selling their stuff. But then I don't know, like you still see some newer artists popping, especially in Tezos, man. There's just like a lot of activity on Tezos as of late. Again, not high dollar figures. The Tezos coin itself is in the fucking gutter. Like the blockchain itself doesn't seem to be doing anything to promote anything or build or innovate anything. So it's sort of like a languishing ecosystem, but the art over there is incredible. Folks like Lulu XXX the other day was just observing how more people are talking more about some of the older Tezos art in particular. I've been collecting like a fiend over there as of late. Like the other day, A.L. Crego added a bunch of pieces of his to my collection, Max Capacity, Zico Jam, LB, Cyber Mystic, aka Marcelo Pinel, just like obsessed with their work. And all their work is, or a lot of their work is over on Tezos. So like there's action there. Vincent Van Doe went in heavy on Die with the Most Likes, who has most of his old historic minted on Tezos. So it's like there's something cooking there. It's not exactly overflowing or on fire at this point, but strong smoke signals, I'd say. And for the true collectors out there, whether you're collecting on secondary or you're following artists that are putting out new work, price points have obviously dramatically come down from like the Pico bull market. So for folks that really are in it more for the art, at least for like the foreseeable future, it's a great time to collect. And if you're, weekends, it's like, bringing new folks into the ecosystem helps everyone. You hate to see folks letting go of art that maybe they paid a premium for back in the day. But again, it's a cycle of life. People lock in capital losses to offset other gains in other parts of the ecosystem because, again, it's not just like art. It's not just the collectible side. Cool things are happening on this like social meets DeFi space that's sort of emerging over in like the base ecosystem with the activity that's happening over there. Say what you will of it, but it is activity, and there's a lot of money slushing around coming into that neck of the woods. So it's a lot of cool things going on. And even on like the collectible side, I saw some account the other day, some 17-year-old in India who's apparently like in the past few months made $1 million flipping like pudgy penguins, bought himself a couple punks that have also been on like a free fall in terms of like their floor prices, but still like command they're not cheap at all. It's like 50K, whatever, like not something that people sneeze at. So people are still making money over here. It's just it's more like the hustler grinders and the folks that are not sleeping that are having a lot of fun at this point in time. So again, that sort of activity, it's night and day from where we were coming from back in 2020 and 2019. It's just a larger pool. Again, water's a little bit shallow, but I don't know, weather's nice. And there's like there's a lot of different parts to check out, different blockchains and all that good stuff. So it's sort of like a rambling, meandering state of like how I'm looking at and what I'm looking at when it comes to NFTs and like the broader crypto space.
No, dude, that's exactly what I asked for, and I appreciate it, man. And I largely agree with you, man. The art scene in Web3 is like really interesting because I feel like, thinking about what you were just saying, early on, the scarcity was a thing in the art scene because there literally just wasn't that much art out there. And so, and I feel like that's sort of almost like messed up people's perception on how this would all play out, because you had artists making money sort of like big fish in a small pond because their art is dope, and there's only a limited amount of dope art to be found as NFTs, talking like pre 2021 time or whatever. So like if you like art, but you like specific styles of art, like maybe I'm a good example actually. Like early on in NFTs, there was like Fabiano and Stina. They were the only ones that I can think of who were consistently putting out art with like funny eyeballs, right? And so like if you like funny eyeball art and NFTs, the pool of people to find that art from is very, very small. And so, just for the sake of like a hypothetical example, if there's, you got 50 collectors out there who love art with funny eyeballs, but only 2 people making it, like obviously they're going to command like a higher premium. But now that the market is what it is, and we've got all these other artists in here, I feel like it's mimicked the traditional art world in a lot of ways where, it's not very, if you like art, like I always have, man, my house is like full of art, and my house is full of physical art that I didn't pay a lot of money for. I accumulated it along the way at like craft shows and from like, random artists in like other countries that I, found their thing and liked it and brought it home. And I haven't spent a lot of money on it, but it's all stuff that I purchased because I liked it with no intention of ever reselling it. And I feel like that's the approach that people have to take with the NFT art market, because there's definitely the investment side of the traditional art market too. Like we all know that. Like you may love Picasso, but a lot of people buying Picassos are hoping to eventually unload that Picasso for more money. And there's, you know, a large NFT side of that component too. But you know, I feel like we're sort of getting to a point where if you're an artist in the traditional world or in the NFT world, you got to really like being an artist, because it's very tough to break into the investment side of things unless you got like a strong marketing game or fall in with the right people. And then the same thing with the collector side of things too. Like, you know what I mean? If you go into these art marketplaces with the intention of flipping them, that's a different side of the market of these art marketplaces. Like that certainly exists out there, but I think the vast majority of this is sort of going to end up looking like the traditional art world, where you got a bunch of starving artists cranking out a bunch of awesome art for not a lot of money. But the truth of the matter is the market's flooded with awesome art for not a lot of money. And, you know, you got a supply and demand type of situation going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. The one thing that I've been like just sort of bummed about not seeing yet. I still think there's a future in which this will happen, but like some of the larger artists out there, again, who just through a combination of just creating incredibly dank art, being extremely consistent, being very thoughtful about building out their collector communities, and also just being fortunate to be in the right place at the right time, basically to get some of these bigger collectors that will help just level up by orders of magnitude like what particular artist's market can be. I still think that a group of those artists can come together and leverage some of the like crypto native tooling that's emerged, like for example splits. And if there's again some forward thinking or forward looking wallet providers, for example, like Rainbow Wallet, I see like Mike Demarius or whatever his name is, like super active, and like present in like everyday crypto folks timelines. Having them come together in a way that sets up a fund for artists that like auto distributes like earnings from secondary sales or something like this, that some of those bigger, more established artists are bringing in still even today in this sort of market on a relatively consistent basis, that sort of makes it rain and spreads the wealth a little bit for the other artists in this space. I still think, like, again, it takes a little bit of coordination from those top artists to kind of come together, take a little coordination with them and like the powers that be, whether it's marketplaces or wallet providers, wherever the right interface is, to set something up to actually make a really conducive environment writ large for all the artists that are popping over here. Because I think, like, not even thinking about money, just thinking about like what you were sort of talking about, a lot of artists creating a lot of great art right now, right? That's sort of like fact of the matter. And art is going to continue to be digital. And there's just like, that is the future of art. More art will be digital than not. It already is, but like that is going to be the state of art in the future. We're just going to say art, and it's going to be like digital first and then physical second or whatever. Sort of my thought. So there's tools though that let it be different than the current art market is today. So that's sort of like, I don't know how it's going to come about. It's one of those like far-fetched ideas, quite optimistic, quite altruistic, but something that like, I don't know, like those artists that have come up since the early days, like they know what it's like to be down and out. And now that they're not, it's like there's semi-easy ways to make it not so for the other newer artists or struggling or artists that are not on their kind of like financial level to feel a little bit better about things. So we'll see what happens.
Well, no, dude, I'm in line, man. I feel like this is like sort of what we've always been working towards, like collectively as a space, right? There's always been sort of this vision of this like creator economy that we've
Yeah.
never really like cracked yet. But I feel like we all believe, and I think this is what you're saying too, that we have the tools to be able to do it, but nobody's quite like, cracked the code yet. And therefore we're sort of falling into this trap that it's starting to mimic the traditional art world in the sense of watered down, a lot of shallow water and versus the deep water or whatever. But my hope is like, there's this interesting balance of like platforms versus like protocols where known origin is like a great example where a lot of these artists early on needed known origin as a platform to be able to enter into the rudimentary creator economy that we had at the time, which has never been perfect, but I would love to see like the quote unquote creator economy be like, eventually some sort of smart contract that like, you're an artist, you plug yourself into the smart contract, and that somehow plugs you into this flywheel or something like that actually works, or at least works for a little while, and then people can make another one with another shitcoin or something. But that seems to be like what's been missing, right? We have this technology that we know allows for more, and royalties I think was sort of like the Band-Aid for a long time that delivered some aspect of that circular creator economy that we were hoping to manifest, but that obviously wasn't the path forward, even though it was a stab in the right direction. But I feel like we keep needing those stabs because we are falling down that path right now. And I think part of it is just sort of inevitable because that's just what everyone is familiar with and the way it's always been. But this space has always been about taking it farther and to the next step. And so I don't know, man, I've sort of had this feeling myself, and maybe it's collective as well, that sort of waiting to see what the next thing is going to be. Which in the past year or so has sort of been eaten up by AI, getting involved in like all the tech and everything. But that hasn't really pushed Web3 stuff forward in the way that, or at least not in a way that's affecting creators and artists in the this creator economy sort of flywheel type of way. So. I don't know, man. I think I'm going on a tangent here, but generally in line with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, it's like again, it's something that it's different. It hasn't been done before, but I think what we're initially envisioning and what we've been talking about is more like it's actually not as complex or like hard to understand as folks think. It's actually quite simple, and I think it's that simplicity that's causing a lot of folks to sort of like miss it and not be able to like leverage it. And especially from a business side like standpoint, like providing a protocol or like creating that sort of service, there's no room for a middleman, right? It's sort of just like you create these better tools, and the other participants, like in this case the artists, will be the ones that benefit. So I think those two factors are sort of like inhibiting the emergence or development of like a truly new, better way. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. The space moves a mile a minute, and there's always someone tinkering and making something really cool. And it just takes one or two of those bigger, more established artists to make this, to really grok that potential and to get on board with it and like maybe fund or create it in the short term to really bring it into reality. So again, I think those are like that direction, like something fundamentally different that is not overly complex to kind of like understand or take part in. That mix is what we're sort of waiting for. And again, what the space has made possible. It's just a timing and coordination issue at this point to kind of get everything together. So it's sort of exciting to be able to like lurk in the cut, watch what's happening, like, it still didn't happen yet, and try to like send out the vibes into the universe, try to talk about it like behind closed doors and like private chats with certain folks, trying to push progress that's like still private now into the public forefront. So still fun though.
Oh, dude, it's definitely fun, man. And you mentioned 0 1, man. I feel like they have taken a solid stab at trying to establish this, flywheel creator economy.
Yeah.
Although they haven't figured out the creators getting paid part yet, at least to my knowledge. But we need that, and I'm not ruling out that they will figure that out. They got a bunch of smart people behind that project, but we need that and those stabs in these directions. Whatever Foundation is doing sounds like a similar stab in that direction, where you get this sort of this cycle going. And yeah, man, it's when NFTs caught fire, 2021 or whatever. I felt like, I was just thinking about this the other day. I felt like a kid, and I was supposed to be cleaning my room, and my mom walked in, and it wasn't clean yet, but it was supposed to be, and I was like, oh my god, we're not ready, and but then, like, the relatives are all coming over or something, and it's like, ah, shit, we got caught with all this technology, and we're not ready for the limelight and everything. But now I actually feel like the space is getting to a point where, like, and this is also what we were talking about last week. If we were to put the stuff in the forefront, we, not meaning us, meaning the powers that be that determine, marketing for the world, the stuff that mattered and the stuff that is actually, pushing the culture forward and everything. We've got some, like, really cool streamlined stuff right now that is, like, fairly user friendly. There's, like, some hurdles to get involved, but not so much that if you care about what an NFT is, you can't figure it out and everything. So yeah, man, sort of just underscoring your point, it's been fascinating to just sort of watch the evolution of the space. Go from we're not ready, we're nowhere close to being ready, to like, we got some shit, man, that, like, normal people can actually wrap their heads around if they care enough to wrap their heads around it. But we're sort of, like, still, I think, trying to get out from under this whole, like, sort of misinformation dump about, like, what NFTs actually are onto the public, and getting back to square one.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like this is like we're in this sort of, like, Etch-a-Sketch, like, reset moment, and like, this change that's happening right now, like, everything's sort of in flux, but depending on how things fall in place, when things settle down, if they settle down, you never know. Fucking crypto's crazy. Yeah, the new order could be quite interesting, given the kind of people that are still here, kind of being shooken around, the tech that's available, and then sort of, like, where it feels like a lot of people, like, have a lot of sympathy towards. So.
In a lot of ways, man, this cycle sort of feels like a fresh start. Like, we talked about it last week. People sort of wrapping up their previous projects and getting ready to embark on the next thing. Had Frankie Needles on his next thing on the WIP last week and everything, and I kind of like it, man. It's I feel like we sort of needed everything to sort of burn to the ground, and honestly, we always have. You and I have been through these cycles a bunch of times where the house is burned to the ground, and then you sort of survey the scene, see who's left, and then roll forward. And this definitely feels like one of those times. But this time around is particularly interesting because we've never had really, like, 5 years worth of information to work from when starting to lay the new framework down and everything. And so in a lot of ways, man, I've always felt, and I think you do too, man, that NFTs are sort of a different animal than crypto, despite being inherently related. And in a lot of ways, this seems like, very early crypto days, 2016 type of thing, where the technology's been around for, like, 5, 6, 7 years and in play, but, like, you really have to be in the weeds to, like, care about it and understand it. And I feel like, crypto's now on a much longer timeline than that, but NFTs still seem like they're very much in their infancy, like, early crypto days, where it's a thing, it's going to be a thing. It's got tons of use cases that you can easily articulate and explain to anyone who cares about, but it's still, like, very, very nascent in the sense that, like, of people really applying the technology and doing stuff with it at a scale that will, catch people's attention in a way that makes sense for the technology. So I don't know, man. It's fun watching it unfold, and I mean, progress has certainly been made, man. I mean, you know what it was like a few years ago.
Yeah, but I think that that time frame that you're talking about, like go back to 2016-ish and like crypto space, see what was going on. Things are so raw, like a lot of jagged edges, but a lot of development, a lot of building was happening for folks that were able to dig into the weeds and kind of like bring together a lot of disparate things. I think that's a great time frame to think of like where NFTs are today. I think NFTs are in a much better state than crypto was in a like similar time frame, like you're saying, like 6-7 years out from like the genesis. But still a lot of similarities. So yeah. Did you hear that, kids? You got some homework. Study crypto back 2016 as much as you can. Apply the learnings to NFT land.
I mean, I think the only reason NFTs are in a slightly better position is because the population is generally more knowledgeable about crypto than if we were starting fresh with NFTs and crypto at the same time and everything. So, we've sort of by proxy benefited from that. But yeah, man, it's the same. And it was the same back then, man. I was in the shout out Rare Skrilla and Rob Niss, who were in the Poloniex troll box with me back in 2016. And anytime the cycles come around, it's the exact same shit that we've seen around here, man. You got a bunch of people, a bunch of opportunists swooping in, making a bunch of junk, trying to capitalize on, people who are just coming in, who want to catch the next big thing and rinse, repeat. But the jankiness of the tech, I think, is the big similarity where, despite NFTs having more exposure to them than crypto did to it back in 2016, I don't feel like eyeballs are the equivalent of like understanding what it is. And in that case, I feel like it's pretty much 2016 for NFTs that, there's a tremendous amount of, consumer education that needs to be done before we get to a 2021, 2024 type of hype cycle with NFTs specifically, or whatever manifestation of NFT takes off by then. I mean, you and I know this is sort of like a catch-all bucket, which is also part of the problem here. For NFTs is like a catch-all bucket for a lot of every digital asset on the planet,
Yeah, no, 100%. Boom, dude. Charted some interesting territory.
Yeah, dude, we're like Ferdinand and Magellan or some shit. I think they ended up being horrible people, so let's not compare ourselves to them.
Yeah,
but,
pretty much everyone back in the day had a whole bunch of baggage.
Yeah, whatever explorers were like cool and like nice to people, we were like those.
The builders back in the day, the good ones, the
friendly ones. Yo, good shit, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I see Hidden Forces posting about the WIP tomorrow, all the giveaways. I guess he's taking like a don't come to the WIP tomorrow approach, like don't come, trying to like reverse psychology, folks. But yeah, definitely come to the WIP tomorrow. We got some cool art. Got Cameron talking about some future forward tech. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great one. Good shit, man. I got to sync up with Hidden Forces and drop a bunch of his stuff in the parcel, and I will see you there.
Awesome, brother. See you in the metaverse tomorrow.
There, man.
Cool. And thank you for showing up, Dragon Ace Mom. See y'all tomorrow at ZWIP. Bye-bye.